All right, now let us begin. The formula, gentlemen and ladies, for the area of a regular polygon, remember, is area equals 1/2 perimeter times the apothem. Now we can easily calculate the perimeter by taking the length of that side, 7.5, and multiplying it by the number of sides. This is an octagon, so that would be 8. But as you already observed, what we don't yet know is the apothem. If you looked at the notes that you received today, you may have noticed that they're kind of slim on what we traditionally call notes. It just dives right into the examples because there's really nothing new going on here. It's just taking what we've dealt with before and using it in a different way. So the main thing that you have to realize is in order for us to use our trigonometry in order to find the area, as you said, we need to find the apothem, and we do so, we start off by finding the measure of that angle indicated on the screen. How do we find the measure of that angle? We've done this before. How do you find the measure of that angle indicated on the screen? Yes? Okay, 360 divided by 8 will give me 45. Realize, however, that 45 is the measure of this angle, which is not the same as the angle that I need in order to solve for the apothem. What am I doing to that 45? Dividing it by 2. So the habit that you want to start getting into is realizing that the measure of that angle is not 360 divided by the number of sides. It's 360 divided by twice the number of sides. Okay, so this angle here is 360 divided by 2n every time. Okay, so in this particular instance, this triangle that we're dealing with here, this angle is 22.5. There's my right angle. And this segment down here, what is the length of this segment? 3.75. Before I go any further, if we're not seeing where the 22.5 is coming from, if we're not seeing where the 3.75 is coming from, these are questions I want to make sure that I'm addressing. Bless you. Okay, so now, this is just trig. Last chapter. Remember, you look at the angle, you look at the sides, you decide what trig ratio you're using. So what trig ratio am I using here in order to find the apothem? I'm using the tangent. So our equation becomes tangent of 22.5 equals 3.75 over the apothem. Remember, this means that in our calculator, I'll find the apothem by doing 3.75 divided by the tangent of 22.5. So our tangent, our apothem is approximately 9.1. Don't clear your calculator. As a rule of thumb, the more times you clear your calculator, the further and further away you're getting from the actual right answer. Okay, so be in the habit of clearing your calculator as rarely as possible. Some of you are in the habit of writing something down and then just typing it back in. Realize, and I have to point out a calculator. For example, calculators like this, there's an A and S button at the bottom. That will bring up your last answer. Calculators like this, you don't have an A and S button, but you have an A and S function. If you notice, the second function for the negative sign will bring up your last answer. Yeah. Right, and those calculators, you can also go up to a previous step. Okay, so make sure that you're learning how to be comfortable with your calculator. Some of you, I think, are still borrowing my calculator or using your scientific calculator app in your phone, that's not going to help you when you get to the EOC. You want to make sure that you're used to the calculator that you're using on the EOC. Why add extra stress in what's already a high-stress situation? All right, so far we've found the apothem. Now, remember what we're doing. We're using it to find the area, which is 1/2 times the perimeter, which we find by taking 7.5 times 8 times that apothem of 9.1. Okay, so I already have this approximately 9.1 in my calculator. I don't want to clear my calculator because I'm getting further and further away from my answer when I do that. So I'm just taking what I have and multiplying by everything else. And I have approximately 271.6. Square centimeters. First of all, remember, Abby, you with me? Okay. First of all, remember, the first thing that you're doing is finding the measure of that angle in the triangle. You're doing that by dividing 360 by 2n. In this problem, n is 10, so we're taking 360 divided by 20 in order to get my angle of 18 degrees. So, looking at this triangle, this is 18 degrees. My radius is 9.5. Here's my x, here's my apothem. Let's solve for the pieces of the puzzle. The sine of 18 is what you would use to find x. Some of your answers were approximately half of the correct answer. Perhaps you're realizing you forgot to multiply this x by 2 when you solved it. That's a common mistake that could happen. Okay, so x will equal 9.5 times the sine of 18, which means that my perimeter will equal 2 times this times 10. Okay. And what I'm trying to get at is, do you see how by writing just a little bit more, if I can figure out all of the calculations, all of the sine, cosine, and tangent stuff that I'm typing into my calculator, I won't have to clear my calculator at all. Let me step by step you through what all this yuckiness is. Okay? This 9.5 times the sine of 18, you see, is this segment down here. If I double it, that's my side length, right? That's this. And if I multiply my side length times the number of sides, which is 10, that whole yucky thing right there, that's my perimeter. That's exactly my perimeter. No rounding. Along the same lines, the cosine of 18 would be used to find my apothem. I would put my apothem over 9.5, which means my apothem is 9.5 times the cosine of 18. Which means, finally, if I want to write this whole thing out and make sure that I'm not clearing my calculator at all, then the area is 1/2 times 2 times 9.5 times sine of 18 times 10 times 9.5 times the cosine of 18. All of that. But you did all of this anyway. It just looks like a lot because I'm writing it all out in one step. You did this, okay? But every time you cleared your calculator, you were getting further and further away from this. Okay? Yes, ma'am. Yes, 8th graders, I know you're on some kind of a schedule. You're dismissed. The assignment is on the board. Last last bit, gentlemen and ladies. Shh. Last little tidbit, waiting for you. The area of a triangle, you know, as 1/2 base times height. Let's consider how we would find the area in problem 3. Well, if I sketch the height here, how could I use trigonometry to find that height? Because, of course, I need the height of the triangle in order to find its area. Gentlemen, let's look at this triangle here. If I want to find the height of that triangle, gentlemen, is there a question I'm neglected to answer? No. Okay. So, what trigonometry would I use to find the height of that triangle? We sound split. What is that height to the 36-degree angle? Opposite. In this blue triangle that I've highlighted, what is the 8? It's the hypotenuse. I'm hearing some of you saying tangent, and that means that you're using this whole 12, but you don't know how much of it is in that blue triangle. So no, you can't use tangent. You would use sine. So my height, I would use sine of 36, and that would equal height over 8, which means that my height is 8 times sine of 36, which means finally the area of the triangle would be 1/2. What's the base of the triangle? The 12. And then the height is this 8 times the sine of 36. So once again, I'm writing everything out instead of doing something in my calculator and rounding just so that it takes up a little less space. But this time I no, seriously, I have a reason. Notice what this shows us. This shows us that the area of a triangle is 1/2 side times side times the sine of the included angle. In other words, area of a triangle is 1/2 AB times the sine of C. That's the formula that you see in your textbook. The bottom line is I can use any two sides and its included angle. The angle must be included. It must be the angle formed by the two sides whose lengths I know. I'm trying to stress that to you. Okay, so finally, I can just key this into my calculator. And it doesn't say what to round to. Let's round it to the nearest 10th. I have 28.2. Questions? I love questions. Yes.
I didn't use the formula because we wouldn't have something.
Yeah, I used what
What height did you use?
5.7.
Right.
So
You're using, without even realizing it, you are using that formula.
can I do it
If that makes sense to you, fantastic. Yes. I'd have to look at your work. Do we have from this screen what we need? Sorry? Okay. Do we have from this screen what we need?